I still remember the feeling of cold steel against my throat. It felt sharper than any Apache blade I'd ever faced in the 5 years I had spent in the frontier wars. You'd think a man who had seen so much death would be used to it, but standing there, beneath that woman's knee, staring into the cold, dark eyes of a woman ready to end it all, I realized nothing in my past had prepared me for this moment. The night was thick with silence. The only thing I could hear was the sound of my own breath and the faint echo of my heartbeat as my throat burned, the taste of whiskey still bitter on my tongue. The warmth of the alcohol hadn't dulled the sharp edge of fear creeping through me. I opened my eyes slowly, trying not to move, aware of the woman sitting above me, pinning me to the cot. My chest rose and fell beneath the weight of her knee. Her presence was both powerful and terrifying, and I knew right away that she wasn't here to bargain. "My father died in your cabin last night," she whispered, her voice low and laced with venom. It carried the coldness of desert wind before. "The storm, you were the last to see him breathing." I didn't flinch. Not because I wasn't afraid, hell. I was terrified, but because I knew better. One wrong move, and I'd be dead. There was no time for fear, just survival. Her eyes were like two black coals, burning with a fire that could consume everything in its path. She didn't care that I was a man of honor, that I had saved her father, tried to heal him when others might have left him to die. To her, I was just another white man, just another face in a long line of enemies. The knife was sharp, cold against my skin. I could feel the thin line of warmth creeping up from where it touched, as though it was measuring how much longer I had to live. She didn't need to speak. Her silence was as deadly as the knife in her hand. "If I wanted your father dead," I finally said, my voice hoarse but steady, "I wouldn't have spent all night changing his bandages." Her hand tightened on the knife. I saw her jaw clench, the rage barely held in check. The air between us seemed to thicken, charged with something more than just the tension of the moment. It was as if she was fighting something deeper within, her self-revenge justice, maybe just the desperate need for answers. Her next words came out in a whisper, but they were laced with a challenge. "Prove it." I slowly turned my eyes toward the bedside table, my muscles screaming in protest, but I didn't move any other part of my body. Her gaze followed mine, and I could see the knife waver in her hand as she glanced at what I was. Pointing to your father's medicine pouch, still lying there where he'd left it. Blood-stained rags from 3 changes of bandages. The evidence was clear. I wasn't trying to kill him, I said. I was trying to save him. Tension. In the room shifted slightly, and I could see the doubt flicker in her eyes, just for a moment. She reached for the medicine pouch, fingers brushing the dried blood as she opened it, pulling out the remnants of her father's final moments. "You could have prepared this," she said, her voice hesitant. "Could have didn't. Met." Her eyes, "Your father told me about Ayakoa before he died. About the raids, the betrayal." The knife moved closer, pressing a little harder against my skin. Her jaw tightened. "You know nothing of my uncle?" I exhaled. "I know he's planning to get a lot of people killed, both white and Apache." For a long moment, neither of us spoke. The only sound was the soft rustle of the wind outside, whispering through the cracks in the cabin. I could feel her weighing the words, fighting against the part of her that wanted to believe in the truth, and the part that had been raised to distrust every man who wasn't Apache. Finally, she lowered the knife, but not by much. "You don't know what he's capable of," she said, her voice quieter now. "He'll burn this whole land down, and he doesn't care who gets in the way." "I'm trying to stop him," I replied, looking her in the eye. "That's why. I'm here to help you, to stop your uncle before he destroys everyone." Her face softened, just slightly. Her gaze held mine, and for the first time I saw a flicker of something else in her eyes, a flash of understanding. Maybe. But before I could read it, she stood up, pulling away from me. "I am Ka!" she said, her voice firm now, like the desert winds that whipped through the canyons. "Takakoto was my father." She stepped back, pulling the knife from her belt and securing it with a practiced motion. "I watched your cabin from the ridge. I saw you carry him inside. Saw the light burning all night. I couldn't bring myself to answer immediately. Instead, I looked at her, watching the shift in her expression. She was more than just a woman. She was a warrior, a daughter of a fallen chief. Oh man, Someone who had already made a decision that would change both our lives forever. She didn't wait for my answer. "I need your help to stop Ayakoa," she said. "I can't do it alone. And if we're going to have any chance, I need you alive." Asterisk, 5 days had passed since the confrontation with Ka. We were still alive. But each moment felt like we were teetering on the edge of a precipice, ready to fall into an abyss of violence and chaos. Every step we took, every choice we made, pulled us deeper into a war neither of us had wanted. Ka and I had traveled through barren lands. Our hearts weighed with the knowledge that if we didn't stop Ayakoa, everything we had fought for, everything we had come to understand would be destroyed. The line between justice and vengeance was thinner than I ever imagined. And Ka had taught me just how easily they could blur into one another. We stopped at a small, rundown trading post on the edge of Apache land. The post had been abandoned. For years, a perfect hiding place for the kind of men we were hunting. Sa, as usual, didn't say much. She was always the first to move, the first to act. I followed her lead, knowing that without her, I'd never make it through the storm that was coming. As we approached the post, I could feel the tension in the air, like the calm before a storm. I turned to Ka, her eyes focused, her body poised for what was coming. "You ready for this?" I asked. She didn't answer, but in the way she held herself, I could see everything I needed to know. She was ready, not just for what was ahead, but for what we had already begun. There was no turning back now, and that's when it hit. The real battle wasn't just against Ayakoa, it was against everything I had ever believed in, everything I had once stood for. Jack, Ka's voice cut through my thoughts, sharp and steady. "This is bigger than just him. This is about stopping a war before it starts. We need to get to him first." We approached the cabin with caution. Inside, there was nothing but dust and shadows. But it was clear that Ayakoa's men had been here. There were signs of a struggle, remnants of a battle that had come too close. As we moved through the cabin, I could feel the walls closing in, the weight of what we were doing pressing down on me. This wasn't just a fight for survival. It was the beginning of something bigger, something that would define who we were. Then, out of nowhere, we heard the sound of footsteps, deliberate, and that's when everything changed. We weren't alone anymore. Gunfight, the sound of boots hitting the floor echoed through the silence of the cabin. I grabbed Ka's arm, pulling her into the shadows. We weren't just outnumbered. We were walking into a trap. "Stay low," I whispered. "Do exactly what I say, and we might just make it out alive." A bullet shot past my ear, missing by inches. The fight was on. The gunfight that followed was intense. The air was thick with smoke and the metallic scent of blood. Every shot fired was a risk. Every move could be our last. Ca was incredible. She moved like a shadow, swift and deadly, her aim true. I couldn't keep up with her speed, but I didn't need to. We were a team now. We were fighting for more than just our lives. We were fighting for everything we believed in. As we took down the last of Ayakoa's men, I realized something. The fight had just begun. And for Ka and me, this wasn't just a fight for survival. This was the start of something much bigger, something that would change everything we knew about each other and about the world we lived in.